Hi, my name is Elaina Bates-Egan, and I'm an artist originally from Lowell, but currently living in Medford, Massachusetts. I did always enjoy art. It was something that I remember back in like fourth grade in Mrs. Zaralides art class. I saw a painting done by Georgia O'Keeffe, and I was like, that is what I want to do. So that was sort of the beginning of it. And then all through school and all through high school, I took extra art classes and I did stuff outside of school, but I never really intended to do it in any professional way or any regular way. Even when I went to college, at first I had no idea what I was doing, and I was really focused on classics. So I studied ancient Greek, Latin, all that sort of stuff. And then one of my friends was like, "Hey, why don't you come to my drawing class?" And I was like, "Oh, I don't really know. Like, that's not something I'm going to major in." I was like, "Yeah, I'll take one class." And I was just like, "Oh my goodness, I need to be here. This is what I need to be doing. I need to be in the art department." So I continued taking it, and I ended up double majoring. And I did an honors thesis in painting, abstract painting. And then after college, I didn't really do too much art on my own. I worked for the Revolving Museum in Lowell for a little while. And then I decided to go more into like the digital route. So I did more graphic design, that sort of stuff. And then over the last few years, I've sort of started getting back into art. Now that I have two small children, I really want them to be exposed to the art world and see, the benefits of it. So I was lucky enough, like during the pandemic, to actually get a studio space near my house. Because before that, it was in my basement, which is now my kids' playroom. So that doesn't work out too well. There's lots of paint everywhere. Um, so then I've continued just kind of doing it on my own, and now I have a new studio space, and I've really just given myself permission to explore all different forms of art and just kind of, yeah, not really worry about the end product, but really focus on the process itself. And actually, going back to college, my thesis was all about abstract abstract art and the process of giving form to something that's not tangible. And a lot of what drives me at this point is actually color. So I'll see some sort of color or some sort of shape or something, and that will kind of get me excited to put paint on the canvas. So I don't know what it's going to look like. I don't know where it's going to end up, but I just have this like need to just like push paint around on a canvas, and then as I work through it, the painting sort of tells me what it needs to do and where I need to go. Um, at the same time, I also take a lot of influence from ancient Greek mythology. I still love to read about it. I find the stories just fascinating and really interesting, when putting in the context of just the human experience, right? And so the process is as much about the art itself and the process of creating as it is for me just to process the world around me and understand and help sort of get out whatever I have going in my brain. I think it was Georgia O'Keeffe said that like she could paint better than she could ever explain anything with words. Paraphrasing it heavily there. But I feel the same way, like not great with words, but I can put stuff on canvas and feel like I've gotten something out that I needed to. Currently, most of my focus is oil painting, which I absolutely love, like the shine that you get off of it. The colors are really vibrant. I also like that it is slightly sculptural as well. So some of my paintings do have a lot more texture than others. But I also had been exploring with the alcohol inks, which I think traditionally a lot of people use it more for like crafting. But it's a fascinating medium to work with because the colors are so vibrant, and it's a little bit unpredictable. So there's a lot of serendipity. There's a lot of kind of like, oh, that was nice. What can I do to capitalize off that? Or, there might be a shape that's formed that I wouldn't have necessarily done, because they're very watery and they're in like little eyedroppers, super concentrated color. And I just like drop them onto the different materials, and depending on what surface you're working with, it will act completely differently. So these are on canvas, but the ones over there are it's Arches oil paper, so it's actually paper that's meant for oil painting. And what that does is the way that the paper is created, it means that the paint isn't going to sink in quite as quickly. So it sits on top. So that allows you to push it around before it actually really dries. Because the alcohol inks, because they're made from alcohol, it evaporates very quickly, so it dries very quickly, which is like the exact opposite of oil paint. But you can add certain things to it and kind of reactivate it, which is also a problem because I like to layer things. So I had to learn how to like be a little bit more, what's the word? Like confident in anything I did, because I couldn't go back and do lots of layers. I would have to just like, okay, if that color's there, like stay in there now. And, you know, or if I wanted to add something and I already had something there, I had to be really careful because it would actually reactivate the paint that's already on the paper. And so it could change the color, it could change the shape of things. So yeah, so that's been a really interesting exploration and kind of going back and forth. When I start getting a little bit tired of oil paints and all the cleaning and all that stuff, I'll switch over to alcohol inks. And I love the colors. The colors are just amazing. They're so vibrant. So the second painting is Thetis' supplication to Zeus. So Thetis was Achilles' mother, and Achilles felt like he wasn't being treated fairly by Agamemnon, who was kind of like the commander of everything. And so he complained to his mom, who was a demigod. And she went to Zeus, sort of asking him to help him out a little bit. So she's a sea nymph, essentially. So I love the idea of like her like rising up from the water, and you know, going to talk to Zeus, who's like the head of all the gods and just like a really, you know, intense character. And here was this, you know, sea nymph just being like, help out my son, man. Like she did not care. And so yeah, it gave me a chance to just like play around with like the colors and the movement, and like there's a little bit of like a water feel in there. I really like trying to create these landscapes that aren't landscapes. They're environments. They're spaces that you couldn't necessarily actually ever experience, but if you look at it, it is something you feel like you could walk into it. So that one is like, yeah, it's like watery, but it's kind of landscapey. And I love creating those scenes that just kind of take you outside of what's real. The reason why I don't do representational painting is because and this is not to discredit people who do this. It's just in my mind, like I don't feel like I could ever create something that's more beautiful than what's already here. So why do I want to replicate it? Why not like use my medium to create something that doesn't exist? Like how cool is that? Getting to like create something that's not real, but then like make it real. Oh my God, that's so cool. So it's super exciting to be able to do that. And as I touched on with some of like the more landscapey ones that I was doing, it's like a different place, and it just exists there, but it feels calm and it feels nice and it feels like all the wonderful things that I want to feel. And just being able to like try to create those things different times in different ways. Or even like the one Thetis' supplication to Zeus, like it's a little bit darker, it's a little bit more intense, but it's still like, wow, there's really cool, you know, movement up and down, this vertical movement, but that you're kind of going through it. And even though it's a small painting, like I feel small when I look at it. So it's, yeah, I love being able to explore spaces and ideas and colors that I wouldn't otherwise be able to. It kind of varies when it comes to creating collections. There are sometimes I have this idea, like I was fixated on the ancient Greek mythology, and especially I was listening to, or I was rereading the Iliad. So I was like fixated on all those different stories happening. And so I created a whole series around it. And so at the time I was getting back into oil paints, and it all came together nicely. So I felt like that made sense to really focus on that one series. When I was putting together this show, I actually kind of wanted to do an overview of all the different sort of types of painting I've been doing and different explorations. So that's why you'll see some of the alcohol ink some alcohol ink that actually has pen and ink with it as well. So it's mixed media, it's on paper, it's very different than some of the more like textural paintings that I've been doing. Some of these, the ones up here on this wall are a little bit more recent. And so I've started trying to open up my my brush strokes so they're a little bit less defined and it's more of like areas of color. Whereas over here, you'll see there's a lot more like defined shapes. Whereas this one, and especially with this yellow one, you can see it's starting to get more and more open. So I just thought it would be interesting to kind of see these in context of each other. My regular work or my day job is user experience design. So I'm doing UX, UI, digital product design. And so, you know, even though it's digital, there's still definitely overlap with this analog painting, and a huge piece of that is empathy. So when it comes to designing websites or digital products, apps, or anything like that, you need to try to be able to put yourself in other people's position. With painting, it's almost like having empathy for myself, because it gives me permission to actually explore my thoughts, my ideas, how I'm feeling about things, whereas sometimes I think we push those off and try to compartmentalize them. And so just really being open and being able to take that information and then creative problem solve. It's just, it's all connected. I have a new studio over at the Arts Collaborative Medford. So it's a new community art space in Medford, which is a little bit of a trek from here, but not too bad. And we'll be doing an open house on April 13th from 2 to 5. And then after that, we will start doing regular open studios. It's a brand new space, so we're still sort of figuring out how it works. So my website is ElainaBates-Egan.com, and my Instagram handle is @eBatesEganArt. And you'll find me there and all my stuff.